Hey, welcome back to another episode of Versus. This episode is on the most controversial character, Wizard's 2 abilities. Coming up first is Lightning Strike. Keep in mind that the format of this video is going to be covering the pros of each ability, because the corresponding pro means the corresponding cons to the other abilities. So let's get started on Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike summons a big lightning from the sky and zaps up to 5 enemies on sight. The damage increases over how much enemies you have zapped, starting at damage 8 and ending at 16 damage. The first pro of Lightning Zap is that it's unconditional. All you gotta do is have direct line of sight with one enemy and the lightning does everything for you. It seeks the nearest enemy and it has up to 8 tiles of chain range. You don't need to bother lining up enemies to bring out the most in the piercing attack and piercing frost. You can just be about your day and randomly do a lightning attack and it will just zap the enemies all fine. This also means a lower skill cap for unexperienced players. Second pro of Lightning Strike is that it's way more consistent than Piercing Frost. If you hit an enemy, it will almost always deal a 10 plus damage to the enemies. Also, the chain lightning motion happens way faster than how the ice spikes travel, so you're more likely to chain on enemies than to hit someone with the ice spikes. A third pro that depends on your buffs is that the Lightning Strike afflicts the stun debuff instead of the frozen debuff. The stun debuff stuns enemies for 1 whole second, while the frozen debuff without the frozen shield buff only freezes enemies for 0.4 seconds. Well, it will all change when you have the frozen shield buff, because in that way, the frozen ability actually freezes enemies for 2.4 seconds, which is an ungodly amount. But without that, the stun debuff is way better than frozen debuff.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Second up on the list is Piercing Frost. On default, Piercing Frost summons in 3 gigantic ice spike streams that freeze enemies and damage them on a straight line that pierces. Each spike that pop off from the ground deals 6 damage and has a pretty high rate at freezing enemies. The first pro of ice spikes is that it is highly defensive. For the duration that the spikes stay on the map, it actually blocks enemy bullets from hitting you. And with the ability that it spreads with 3 streams, it is quite defensive when you use the ability, which means you have about 1 or 2 seconds of basically invincibility to all bullets. In conjunction with the freezing effect, this thing is highly effective at protecting your Royal Highness. Second pro on the list is that it's not phased by walls. You can attack through walls, although you have to manually aim. You can attack through walls and it will deal the same amounts of damage. And if you can aim good manually, this thing can be devastating over walls, because you can just keep freezing the enemies, popping out, shooting them a bunch of times, and going back to hiding, waiting for your ability to be good, and then freezing them again through the walls and then popping out, and then doing everything over and over again. This thing is highly effective at beating down bosses, and basically, if you really want to chicken out during a match, this thing is freaking godly for you. Third pro on the list is that it has way higher burst potential. So basically, with Lightning Zap, you can only zap to up to a certain amount of damage, and you can't amplify that. But if you get your chances really close to an enemy, you can deal up to 30 damage instantly, because all those spikes that pop up is really gathered in the start. So treat it like a shotgun sometimes and really get close to enemies at point blank range, and you can basically insta-kill them. If you can't insta-kill them, with 3 to 4 spikes that hits on an enemy, there will be close to 100% chance that you're gonna freeze them and can quickly finger hand them or just kill them with your weapons. This does require a lot of skill because, you know, you're risking your life doing it at a point blank range, and most high health enemies are actually quite melee, so you're gonna be in pretty critical health conditions if you do this wrong. But if you do this right, you can clean your room way faster. The 4th pro of ice spikes is, well, sort of conditional too, because it affects the freezing debuff instead of the stun debuff. And I said it's a 2-bladed sword. If you don't have the ice shield buff, it will be pretty useless and it will be not so much better. But if you have the freeze shield buff, you can freeze enemies up to 3 seconds and that enemy is dead. So if you really love ice weapons, you have a lot of great ice weapons on hand, definitely use the ice shield buff. It will add so much potential to you. So lightning strike versus piercing frost, which is better? Keep in mind that this is everything in this video is solely my opinion. If you love one of them, choose that one you love because you play games for fun and you don't need to win all the time. If you love lightning strike or piercing frost, it's all fine with me, and please don't post hate comments down below. So which is more superior? I would say, like all questions on earth, it depends. So I don't want to leave you guys to a cliffhanger, so I'm going to come to a suggestion that if you're playing normal mode and you got a bit of decent skill, you can use the lightning strike ability. Because if you use the lightning strike ability, you will always hit more people and you always deal more damage, and you have no freaking problem against all those bullets by the enemies because they aren't that hard in normal mode. But in badass mode, it's a completely different story. You have to use the ice spike ability solely because it's more defensive and can save you in critical conditions. When I use it in badass mode, I don't even use it to hit enemies. That's because, you know, when you're already having a pretty high damage weapon, you're using that to protect yourself. So when you're playing normal mode, you should be using lightning strike ability. But if you're playing badass mode, please use the piercing frost ability solely just because it cancels out bullets and is way more protective. Thanks for watching my video as always, and hope you're having a nice day. So if you want to watch more of my videos, that's totally agreed, but I know that most of you guys won't watch it till here. So if you want more of this kind of video, please like the video and comment down below which verses do you want to see next. And hope you're having a fantastic day. This is DL passing by, and peace out. That challenge, and it was real fun. Really fun, because the witch, I think the witch got buffed. This rework actually buffed the witch and the night witch, because the night witch has the direct buff. So we're gonna play test it and see if we can get the night wins. We got Edgar.